Howdy folks, Eric here. Interested in playing Standard but don't know where to start? This is a great budget option on all platforms. Just comes in under $30 in paper, 3 tickets on MTGO, and 8 rare wildcards and 3 mythic wildcards on MTG Arena. So this is white enchantment aggro, right? We're built around Optimistic Scavenger here, a 1-mana 1/1. Whenever an enchantment enters under your control, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. This gets out of hand pretty quickly if you fill your deck with a bunch of enchantment effects like Ethereal Armor, 4 Sheltered by Ghosts. We have a Most Helpful Weaver from Spider-Man. This is a saga that makes a 2/1 spider and continues to buff it from there. So we're really just built around getting a creature on the board, buffing it as big as we can, as quickly as we can, and protecting it with effects like Shard Mage's Rescue. Very powerful flash enchantment that gives your creature hexproof until end of turn and +1/+1. Plays out really nicely if our opponent doesn't have a whole lot going on. If they're like deploying pretty slowly and they just try to answer your stuff with removal, you're probably going to get under them and be able to close out a game pretty quickly. 20 planes. We're on a pretty straightforward sideboard as well. Cather Commando to answer artifacts and enchantments. Rest in Peace for graveyard decks. We have 4 Enter the Avatar State, which helps our creatures survive into board wipes and stuff like that. And 4 Parting Gust. This is a pretty flexible removal option that we can also bring in if we feel like we need help surviving things like Day of Black Sun, which would be pretty effective against our deck. That's the list. This is the $30 version. I want to show you a $50 version as well. So here's the $50 version. You'll notice not much has changed. Going up to 16 rare wildcards on MTG Arena, 15 tickets on MTGO. We're mostly, as far as the main deck is concerned, not much has changed other than some lands. We get 2 Abandoned Air Temples and 2 Soulstone Sanctuaries for additional utility. These cards mostly help us grind out games. If we have draws where we're flooding, they give us a way to utilize our mana and continue playing the game, basically. But the bigger changes are in the sideboard. Rather than playing Parting Gust, we get access to Get Lost, which is pretty much just the best white removal piece in Standard. Hits creatures, enchantments, and planeswalkers, giving us a lot more flexibility. I'm going to jump into some ranked games. I'm going to show off the $30 version, and let me know what you think. All right, playing Arena Best of 3, my preferred play style here. Very solid opener right off the bat. We have our Scavenger, we have a Wonderweave Aerialist. If you start buffing this guy, it really takes off. Literally, it gets flying as long as it's modified, which means if it has a counter on it or if it's enchanted in this deck. Very solid start here. Just going to go ahead and lead on the Scavenger. Okay, looks like our opponent's probably playing the blue-green Ouroboros list. So we're going to play pretty aggressively here. They typically don't have much removal, so let's go ahead and lead on the Aerialist. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and lead on the Bulwark Ox here because I can use the Bulwark Ox pretty effectively in this position to start putting counters on my creatures. So next turn I can play like the Wonderweave Aerialist, saddle it with the saddle up the Ox and swing in, guaranteeing I can get a counter on my Aerialist and just kind of playing as aggressively as I can here. Not much of a reason to hold up the Shard Mage's Rescue in this matchup. Looks like our opponent is deploying Badgermole Cubs. Hopefully we can draw something like a Sheltered by Ghosts eventually to get through all of this. Passing it to me. Well, there's an Aerialist. Let's go ahead, stick with our plan here. We'll go ahead and saddle up the Ox with the Scavenger here. Swing into their Badgermole Cub and put the counter on our Aerialist. If they want to trade, give up a Badgermole Cub, they probably won't. No problem there. And then we have this Ox, which can help keep our Aerialist alive now. If you're not familiar with this card, when it attacks while saddled, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, and you can also sacrifice it to give creatures you control with counters hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Looks like they're going for a Sab Sunen, Luxa Embodied. Pretty big frog lady. Shouldn't be too much of an issue if we manage to draw something like Sheltered by Ghosts. Best card in the deck probably, by a lot, Sheltered by Ghosts. Sometimes we're going to live and die by it, but shouldn't be a problem here. There's a Plains, not the worst draw. How do we start swinging through this Sub-Sunen? Well, it has reach, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and start with a Feather of Flight on our Optimistic Scavenger here for a redraw. Go ahead and put a counter on the Wonder Weave Aerialist. There's another land. Just hold up the Shard Mage's Rescue here and pass. Another land's not the worst draw. They're getting cards off of Sub-Sunen. Might be a tough position for us to win from. Yeah, gonna be a little tough. Definitely need a Shelter by Ghost here. They have a lot of mana to work with, a lot of counters. We have some flexibility though. They're not going to be able to swing in with too much. We have the Shard Mage's Rescue, which can put another counter on our Scavenger here, and then we can sacrifice to give both our Scavenger and Aerialist indestructible, leading to some pretty good blocks. It's just the indestructible Reach Frog is going to be kind of an issue for us here. Okay, swinging in. No blocks. This gives us a chance to swing back. Let's go ahead and fire off the Shard Mage's Rescue. This sets us up best for a Shelter by Ghost draw, giving us the biggest Aerialist that we can have. Unfortunately, it probably won't be enough here. I guess we swing in. They block with their 1/1 Siren. We'll play our second Aerialist here. Go ahead and play this Sunblessed Healer. We're pretty much Sheltered by Ghost or bust right now. Not getting any value off the healer right now, but it can block a little. If they play an Ouroborite, I'm just going to concede, because they'll have the mana to be able to fully level the Innkeeper's Talent and play the Ouroborite, which would pretty much just put the game away. The thing about this kind of deck is, that we're playing, it can have some very strong openers, but at the end of the day, it is a budget list, right? So you're going to, the reality of Magic sometimes is that you're going to get outclassed by these really, really tuned meta decks, sometimes, but we still have opportunities to slip under all of that. Let's go ahead and sideboard. We're going to bring in the Parting Gusts. And we're going to take out, I think the Bulwark Oxes are probably a little just too small for this matchup. Their creatures are too big. We're going to have a hard time being able to swing in with the Ox. We're really looking for a hand that leads on an Optimistic Scavenger and can get a quick flyer out on the field. That hopefully we'll be able to kill them before they have a chance to set up. But this kind of deck is perfect for like F&M, right? It's perfect for climbing the ranked ladder on MTGA. If you have a certain, if you only have so many wild cards, right? It comes in at like 8 rare wild cards, 3 mythics. Is it going to be perfect for playing at mythic rank where people are playing pretty tuned decks? Probably not the best, but that's just where I happen to be. So I'm going to show off the deck here. Pretty decent start here. Let's go ahead on the lead on the Aerialist here. This is pretty much the best creature for us to be buffing. There's an Azure Beastbinder. They're going to have a hard time with our Aerialist. Let's go ahead and swing in, see if they block. Because I can just Shard Mage's Rescue at instant speed here, and then we'll go on the most helpful Weaver. This sets us up the best because A, it's a Saga, so it's a little slow. You want to deploy it early. B, it'll put a counter on my Wonderweave Aerialist next turn, guaranteeing I can get flying. And then eventually it'll go to the graveyard so I can bring it back with this Sunblessed Healer. But really next turn I'm looking to soup up the Aerialist with this Ethereal Armor and start getting in as quickly as I can. Okay, land's a pretty good draw. We'll go ahead and put a counter on the Aerialist. We'll go ahead, soup it up with the Ethereal Armor. And let's play another most helpful Weaver here, I think. Actually, we can just afford to hold. Let's just hold the Shard Mage's Rescue. Hit them for 11 here. We have a double striking Aerialist in the air next turn. And probably just best to play it safe. We're pretty well set up to beat them here. Ward 2, going to be tough for them. They can't really effectively use the Beastbinder to kill this, or to delay this. They'd have to have, I don't know, like a naturalize effect maybe? So they're going to put this Unable to Scream on the stack. We're going to respond by Shard Mage's Rescuing here. It'll give it hexproof for the rest of the turn, so now they can't even use the Beastbinder, and they're going to scoop it up. Pretty straightforward stuff. Let's go ahead and run that back. Hopefully we have a good, clean match here on our hands. Would love to see a win, but that game demonstrated the power. Like, if you have the play and you're able to get on the board quickly and build up this big flying threat, cards like a Most Helpful Weaver giving Double Strike and Ethereal Armor helps you close out the game really quickly. This is actually, it's close because having a flying lifelinker is not that bad in this matchup, but I think I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this. It's a little tricky because we have lands and spells, right? But the fact that it's not doing our like really strong thing, I think is a good reason to mulligan it. Now this is a lot better. We have our Scavenger, we have an Aerialist. Let's go ahead and get rid of the Sunblessed Healer for now. Okay, it came back to us. Classic. I'm convinced there's a real bug with what you mulligan away and what you draw next. Also, the Thoughtseize bug is real. I'm convinced of that too. Badgermole Cub coming into play. They're off to a pretty quick start. So whether or not I'll be able to answer this, I'm not entirely sure. They'll be able to shut down my Optimistic Scavenger. They're kind of doing their thing right now. But I think I'm going to need an Aerialist to be able to get off the ground here. Pass it back to him. If they have an Ouroboros, pretty unlikely that I'm able to win from that position. That's just the nature of Standard right now. These Simic decks are able to deploy very quickly, and if I don't have the right answer at the right time, or if I'm not already off the ground or on the play, it'll be pretty tough to deal with them. But I don't know about you. At my local FNM, people don't run this kind of deck typically. Pretty expensive, having to own 4 Badgermole Cubs. And also, you know, it's a meta deck, right? Like, I think people like me, like the creative part of Magic, where you're able to basically do what you want and design your own deck. I'm going to go ahead and block here. I'm not entirely sure why they attacked with the Cub, but I'm pretty happy to take that block. Let's go ahead. Let's get our second Optimistic Scavenger in play, and we'll put a Feather of Flight on the Wonderweave Aerialist here, just to continue to buff it as much as we can and start getting in. Draw a card. Not bad. We're at 4 mana, so we can kick a Sunblessed Healer next turn. Bring back a Scavenger. Or if they manage to deal with the Aerialist, I can bring back the Feather of Flight on top of the healer, which is pretty effective. They don't have a ton of mana to work with right now. Swinging in. Gonna shut down my second Scavenger here. I'm pretty okay taking this trade, I think. The Scavenger's not going to be doing much here anyway. I just need to take I need to reduce their creature count so their Ouroborroids and Tyvar are less effective in the future here. Shard Mage's Rescue is a pretty solid draw. Go ahead and swing in. Not sure why they didn't kick this Paw Patch. They may have like a what's it called? The Repulsive Mutation? Sometimes these Simic decks play a counterspell. I'm going to go for it anyway. Not necessarily 100% likely that they have it. It could be like a Tishana's Tidebinder. Bring back a Scavenger here. Put a couple blockers on the board. Okay. Tidebinder's not the end of the world. We're still hitting in for 4 every turn. They kind of need to hit a 5th land drop. There's their land drop. They're able to activate Tyvar now. The creatures are quite large. Ooh. Yeah, that's exactly what they needed. We're dead, but we're pretty close to killing them as well. GG's. I could have played around that Tidebinder, I suppose. I could have maybe just cast the guy and then Parting Gusted their Tyvar, but let's move it into the next match. All right, match number 2. Actually a pretty decent hand. The key component to this is we have to like assess what our opponent is up to. If we think they're on removal just because we're on one creature, it could be better to play Wonderweave Aerialist on turn 3 and hold up Shardmage's Rescue. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. If this is Delirium, then they're going to have a hard time answering this Wonderweave Aerialist. We can get an early Sheltered by Ghosts on it and hold up Shardmage's Rescue. That against like this list is probably going to be enough to win the game by itself. They have a Keen-Eyed Curator, Hasty. Let's go Sheltered by Ghosts, and let's just jam the Ethereal Armor. This Delirium list plays a lot of like damage-based removal, so putting this at 4 toughness is going to be pretty much impossible for them to deal with game 1, I think. Especially because it has Ward 4 now. They have a Fear of Missing Out. They're off to a pretty fast start themselves, but the fact that we're going to be able to gain a lot of life every turn. Second Ethereal Armor is really disgusting. So we pretty much can't lose from this position, and they scoop it up. Let's bring in our Rest in Peace. I think Cather Commando is pretty solid here. Flashes into block, and also most of their creatures are either artifacts or enchantments. Helps save us from like dying to like any double strike buffing that they might do. Let's go ahead and cut down on the Bulwark Oxes. And I think we can cut down on a couple Sunblessed Healers and maybe yeah, maybe we'll just go 3 Cather Commando. Try it like that. Rest in Peace is going to be a kind of critical card. It's also pretty important that we get on the board early, as per usual, and play around, like, Torch the tower now. This is decent. I'm going to keep it, but only because okay, there's a very good draw for us. I'm going to skip playing Optimistic Scavenger turn 1. It's pretty likely that they have a Torch. I'm going to let them deploy a little bit here and just play a little slow so that we can build up a decent hand. Okay, Rest in Peace is a pretty good draw here. I'm just going to go ahead and lead on that. Shuts down a lot of what they're trying to do. And then I can flash in a Cather Commando. Get some blocks in. Seam Rip is a good draw. Yeah, I think I like the Cather Commando play here. I might not even trade it in. I'm just going to flash it in probably. And then if they try to kill it, I can blow up their Wicker Folk. Actually, I'm gonna go for this play. I'm gonna declare blocks on the Keen-Eyed Curator and then blow up the Wicker Folk, effectively saving me 6 life. Okay. I'm gonna go for the Seam Rip here and pass. They're very likely to have removal in their hand, and we only have the one creature, and the rest of our hand is very reliant on this one creature. So it's pretty important to play around them having a torch here, I think. Okay. We can't do that much longer, though. Maybe one more turn we can hold off. Gotta draw either a Shard Mage's Rescue here, or like another Optimistic Scavenger. Okay. Well, now we have to make them have it. Not much we can do here. Go for a Sheltered by Ghosts. If they have removal, then we lose. Ah. No problem. Let's move into game number 3. Just gonna keep the sideboard the same. Looks pretty effective to me. Maybe Sunblessed Healer's fine on the play. Just another lifelinking guy. Maybe go down a Rest in Peace. It's quite good against them, but more importantly, we need to play to the board as well. Go down a Cathar Commando. Try it like this. I guess there's a little tension between being on Sunblessed Healer and Rest in Peace, but Rest in Peace, or Sunblessed Healer is also just kind of fine as a 3-1 attacker with lifelink, you know? Gonna keep this. Seam Rip is one of our best cards in this matchup. All of their creatures are like, 2 power, or 2 mana value. I'm gonna lead on the Scavenger here. Hopefully I can sneak it through. Looks like I'm sneaking it through. I'm going to go all in on the Scavenger here, because once again, their main removal is Torch the Tower. So if I play the Seam Rip and then play the Ethereal Armor, makes it a 5/5. It's going to be pretty difficult for them to deal with that. With their damage-based removal. And from here, we're in pretty good control of the game. The main way that we could lose this is if they have, like, a way to eventually answer this Ethereal Armor, perhaps? I don't know. They'd need to, like, kill the Ethereal Armor and kill the Scavenger in one turn. But I have this Cathar Commando, 3 power. I can flash it in at the end of their turn here, and should be enough to close out the game in combination with this Feather Flight. If all they have is a torch, I'm going to go for this Rest in Peace. Because if all they have is a torch, they can kill the Cathar Commando. Rest in Peace will shut down their graveyard. It'll let me put a counter on the Scavenger here. Okay, they're going to Seam Rip, or sorry, they're going to Paw Patch formation the Seam Rip. Yeah, scoop it up because I can just, like, kill the Cathar Command, or kill the FOMO with the Cathar Commando here. Good showing. 1-1 overall. Let's hop into the next match. All right, match number 3 here. Sandman Dan. On the draw. Pretty convincing win last time. This is a pretty good hand. I like that we have the Seam Rip. I like that we have the Aerialist. I'd like to see Sunblessed Healer pop off at some point. Looks like this is some kind of Kona Rescue Beastie list. We'll go ahead and lead on this Aerialist. We don't have great ways to interact with this deck game 1. But they might have a hard time dealing with our Aerialist, so let's go ahead and jam. Soup it up with the Feather Flight. There's an Optimistic Scavenger. Pretty good draw. I'm just going to go ahead and go all in. Start presenting as much damage as early as possible. I would have liked to have seen the Optimistic Scavenger sooner, but we'll take what we can get here. Seam Rip is a pretty good answer to the Esper Origins. Smuggler Surprise, good to know. Go ahead and swing in for 5. I think I'm going to cast 2 Sunblessed Healers. They could be on Day of Judgment, but I think this makes sense. We can present a lethal board next turn, assuming they don't have anything. And if all they do is play Flashback the Esper Origins, I think we have lethal. Looks like they're just casting an Esper Origins from their hand, which means they're missing land drops, which means I think we pretty much got them. We don't have a way to go for lethal here, but it's going to be kind of tough for them to outright win next turn, probably. Play a Plains. Swing for a pretty decent chunk here. I think we'll play an Optimistic Scavenger from hand. Plays around if they have like split up, I suppose. We still have a threat. And then we can hold on to this Sunblessed Healer. Okay. We killed them pretty quickly, but they did miss some land drops. A little unfortunate for them. Against the Kona decks, it's important that you bring in instant speed removal. We'll bring in our Parting Gusts. Rest in Peace also could be pretty good. It's not unlikely that they're on Una to reanimate their like white avatars or so on and so forth. It also shuts down Esper Origins. It could be reasonable to bring this in on the play, or sorry, on the draw. I'll probably take the Rest in Peace out on the play and just go for a more proactive plan, but I think we'll have to be a little bit reactive here. We can go down a couple Seam Rips. Let's just go down all the Seam Rips. Seam Rip is good against Esper Origins, but we also have the Rest in Peace, which completely shuts that card down. Let's go ahead and go down on some Sunblessed Healers as well. Once again, bringing in the Rest in Peace, there's a little bit of tension there. All right, match number 3, game 2. On the draw this time. We were last time, managed to win. Which means even if we lose this, we'll have the play next game. 1 land, but we have 2 Optimistic Scavengers and an Ethereal Armor. We also have our Rest in Peace. I'm going to keep this. Hope we draw a second land, of course. And we did, fortunately. Go ahead and play the Scavenger. They're leading on Llanowar Elves. Kind of makes me wish I had some Seam Rips, but not the end of the world here. See what they keep on top. They decided to keep something on top. Let's go for the Rest in Peace this turn. If they're relying on Esper Origins next turn, this is pretty solid. They could still have it if it is like Kona plus a big threat, but getting the Rest in Peace down early, no problem there. Wouldn't mind a third land. Ooh. Oh yeah. So now we can go Optimistic Scavenger. And I think we just go for a Sheltered by Ghosts here. If they're missing land drops, this sets us up really nicely. And we can put a bunch of counters on our Optimistic Scavenger here. Start swinging in. Setting us up for Ethereal Armor plus Feather Flight for probably lethal damage in the air next turn. Crossing our fingers that they miss a land drop again. Did we do it? Did we get under the big Kona deck? They shock themselves. They pass. They shock themselves and pass. Well, they could have, like, Get Lost. I guess I'm going to play a Bulwark Ox in that case. See what they do about this. Because they would have to Get Lost now and kind of show me that that's what they're about. There's the Get Lost. Going for the Scavenger here. Okay. I'm just going to jam the Ethereal Armor on this Scavenger now. Puts a counter on. Helps me keep the Scavenger alive through a board wipe with the Bulwark Ox. continue to swing in. Okay. Next turn we get to go for our Feather of Flight. Guarantee that we get to fly over them. It'll be worth an extra 3 damage. And then on top of that, we can maybe crack a map. We're pretty close to finding lethal, even if they have a Kona. They'd have to have like Kona plus Avatar of the, or Overlord of the Mistmoors to put some flyers in the air, but that might not win the game even. We'll see. So there's the Kona. If it's tapped, you get to put a permanent card from your hand on the battlefield straight up. There's a Seriema. So, unfortunately for them, this is not going to be enough to prevent me from doing what I want to do next turn. They'll be able to block my Bulwark Ox with their Llanowar Elves, but they won't be able to do anything about this Scavenger here once I give it flying. And there's a Shard Mage's Rescue. Great draw. Gives us just enough to get over the finish line here. Hit them for 10 in the air. And a nice little showing from the budget deck. I'm going to wrap it up there. I think we showed off everything that we wanted to with this deck. Once again, comes in just under $30. And it's pretty easy to upgrade. If you wanted to get some Get Losts for your sideboard, or if you really had a big budget and you're interested, I have another video that shows off sort of a green-white version of this list. Splashing green for things like Innkeeper's Talent. And you also get a lot more like good instant speed protection in green. Fun deck. Highly recommend that you check this sort of thing out if you're interested in like aggressive creature strategies and you've never played Standard before, but you want to build something rather than buy like a pre-built deck. This is like the perfect starting point. It's very strong. You'll definitely win some games. Probably win some matches. Could even win your FNM if you show up and people aren't prepared for this kind of thing, right? So if you have any questions, leave a comment. If you wanted to take it in a different direction, you could also think about splashing blue. If you're interested in seeing more of this kind of video, I'm going to release maybe one for each color at the very least. But if you're interested in more than that, like budget tribal builds or budget control specifically, right? How do you accomplish control on a budget? Let me know. Drop a comment. I'll be posting daily Standard videos. But thanks for watching. Bye-bye.